Have you ever looked back at your own hobby journey and thought, I really wish someone had told me that when I started? Looking back at my own move into historical wargaming many decades ago, there are quite a few lessons that would have saved me time, money, frustration, and probably more than a few questionable purchases. So today I want to share my personal top 10 tips that I genuinely wish someone had given me when I first made the leap into historical tabletop wargaming. When I first wandered into the world of historical wargaming, I thought I already knew what I was doing. After all, I'd been playing tabletop games for years. I knew how to move miniatures around a table. I understood rulebooks. I'd painted plenty of figures and I'd rolled enough dice to know they had it in for me. Surely historical gaming couldn't be that different. Well, yes and no. The fundamentals were familiar, but the hobby itself had a very different culture, a different philosophy and a different way of looking at games. It wasn't about replacing one hobby with another, it was about discovering a completely different side of tabletop gaming. Now looking back now, there are a number of things that would have made that transition smoother. And while these are simply my own opinions rather than hard and fast rules, they're the pieces of advice that I'd happily give anyone thinking about making the same journey today. The first thing I'd recommend is to start small and keep things simple. It's incredibly easy to get carried away when you first discover historical gaming. You watch enormous refights of Waterloo, Gettysburg or Kursk on YouTube, see hundreds of beautifully painted miniatures stretching across massive tables and immediately convince yourself that that's where you need to begin. The reality is that those spectacular games are often the result of years, sometimes decades of collecting, painting and refining. Trying to recreate that as your very first project can become overwhelming very quickly. Instead, I'd encourage new players to begin with a manageable skirmish game. Systems like Bolt Action, Saga or a dozen others that allow you to learn the fundamentals without requiring hundreds of miniatures or an encyclopedic knowledge of military history. Small games are quicker to learn, easier to paint for and far less intimidating. More importantly, they allow you to build confidence before deciding whether you want to expand into larger battles later on. The next piece of advice is probably the most important one on this entire list. Choose a historical period that genuinely fascinates you. One of the greatest strengths of historical wargaming is the sheer variety on offer. You can fight Roman legions, Viking raids, medieval battles, the English Civil War, Napoleon's campaigns, the American Civil War, the World Wars, and countless conflicts in between. It's tempting simply to buy what everyone else at your local club happens to be playing, and there's certainly nothing wrong with joining in with your friends. However, if your heart really isn't in that period, your enthusiasm may quickly disappear. On the other hand, if you're fascinated by the Napoleonic Wars or Roman Britain or Second World War, then you'll naturally find yourself reading books, watching documentaries and researching uniforms and learning more about the people behind the battles. Suddenly your army becomes more than just gaming pieces, it becomes a window into history. Long after the latest fashionable rule set has faded away, your interest in that period will still be there, pulling you back to the painting desk and the gaming table. One of the biggest differences between historical gaming and many other genres is that real history often influences how armies performed on the tabletop. You don't need to become a military historian overnight, but taking a little time to understand the tactics of your chosen period can dramatically improve your enjoyment. Learning why Roman legions fought the way they did, why Napoleonic infantry formed squares against cavalry, or why combined arms became so important during the Second World War, gives that every game an extra layer of meaning. Rather than simply moving units because the rules tell you to, you begin making decisions based on genuine historical practice. That's enormously satisfying because suddenly you're not just playing a game, you're exploring why historical commanders made the decisions that they did and discovering just how difficult many of those choices really were. Now this next point is very much a personal opinion and I know not everyone will agree, but I firmly believe investing in quality where you reasonably can. Historical wargaming is an incredibly visual hobby. Beautiful miniatures, realistic terrain and immersive tables create unforgettable experiences. That doesn't necessarily mean spending a fortune because some of the finest terrain I've ever seen has been handmade from cardboard and insulation foam and bits picked up from the garden. In fact, I'd actively encourage people to build scenery themselves because it's rewarding, creative, and often far cheaper than buying everything ready-made. However, I do think it's worth understanding that what good quality terrain and miniatures actually look like. Having that benchmark helps you improve your own modelling and painting. It also means that the armies and battlefields you create can provide years, if not decades, of enjoyment. Now that naturally leads into painting. If you're coming from another gaming background, you may already paint miniatures. But if you don't, historical wargaming offers the perfect opportunity to develop that skill. Now personally, I'd encourage every beginner to adopt what I call a no bare miniatures policy. In other words, if it's going on the table, make every effort to get it painted first. That might sound a little strict, but it's amazing how quickly your painting improves when every new unit gets completed before moving on to the next shiny project. Your first figures won't be masterpieces. Mine weren't, certainly weren't. In fact, some of them are probably best left buried in the back of the display cabinet where nobody can find them. But every miniature teaches you something. Every batch is slightly better than the last. We also live in a golden age of hobby content. There are thousands of excellent painting tutorials online covering every imaginable technique. So there's never been a better time to learn. Another habit that will serve you well throughout your entire hobby life is learning how to properly read the rulebooks. Every historical game has its own mechanics, terminology and design philosophy. Taking the time to sit down and genuinely understand the core rules before your first game pays enormous dividends. Rather than relying entirely on someone else to explain everything, you'll have a much stronger grasp of why certain mechanics exist and how they interact. Of course, videos, podcasts and online tutorials are wonderful resources, and I use them myself all the time. Better still, if you've experienced players willing to mentor you through your first few games, take advantage of that opportunity. Most historical gamers I've met are incredibly generous with their time and knowledge, and learning directly from experienced players is often the fastest route to becoming comfortable with a new rule set. Historical wargaming has always been a remarkably social hobby, which brings me to another piece of advice I wish I'd embraced even earlier. Join a community, whether that's a local club, an online forum, Facebook group, Discord server or simply a handful of friends who enjoy meeting regularly. Sharing the hobby with others adds a completely different dimension. You'll pick up painting ideas, discover new rule sets, hear fascinating historical stories and probably find yourself inspired to tackle projects you would never have considered on your own. Some of my favourite hobby memories haven't actually come from winning battles, which is lucky. They've come from spending entire Sundays laughing with friends around a beautifully laid out table while collectively recreating a table that took place hundreds of years ago. Now, one thing that occasionally surprises newcomers is just how passionate historical gamers can become about authenticity. That's one of the strengths of the hobby, but I also think it's important to remember that we're still playing games with toy soldiers. Historical accuracy is wonderful. It's one of the reasons many of us are drawn to the hobby in the first place. But the ultimate goal is enjoyment. If a particular scenario needs a slight adjustment to make it more enjoyable for your group, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making sensible changes. If everyone around the table is having fun while still respecting the spirit of the history, then I think you've achieved exactly what the hobby is supposed to deliver. The history should inspire the game, not prevent people from enjoying it. Now, something else I wish I'd started doing much earlier is keeping a record of my games. Whether that's writing battle reports, taking photographs, filming videos or simply jotting down the occasional note in a notebook, recording your hobby journey becomes more valuable with every passing year. It's wonderful looking back at old armies, seeing how your painting has improved, remembering memorable victories, disastrous defeats and the hilarious moments that no one expected. Those records become part of your personal hobby history. Looking back over 15 or 20 years of games tells a story that no single battle ever could, and it's incredibly rewarding to see just how far you've come. Finally, never stop learning. One of the reasons historical wargaming has kept me interested for so many years is that there's always something new to discover. One book leads to another campaign. One documentary introduces you to a fascinating commander you've never heard of. One museum visit inspires an entire new army. New rules are published, new miniature ranges appear, fresh research changes our understanding of historical events, and innovative terrain techniques emerge every year. The hobby constantly evolves while remaining firmly rooted in history. That combination means there's always another rabbit hole waiting to be explored, and that's one of the things I love most about this hobby. So there you have it. Those are my personal top 10 tips that I genuinely wish someone had shared with me when I first made the move into historical wargaming. They're not commandments, they're not the only way to enjoy the hobby, and I'm absolutely certain there are plenty of experienced gamers watching who would have a completely different list. That's one of the things that makes this community so enjoyable. We all arrive from different directions, we all discover different periods, and we all find our own path through the hobby. Now I'd really like to hear from you. If you were introducing someone to historical tabletop wargaming for the very first time, what advice would you give them? Which of these tips did you agree with? Which ones would you change? And what important lessons do you think I've completely missed? Whether you're helping someone move across from fantasy or science fiction gaming, or introducing a complete newcomer to the hobby for the very first time, I'd love to hear your own golden nuggets of wisdom. As always, the comment section is where some of the best conversations happen, so please jump in and share your thoughts. That's it for this week. Please join the chat in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the bell for your weekly fix. So until next week, stay safe, keep gaming, and of course, keep rolling high.